It's wonderful to see everyone here this morning. I am Amy Gutmann, president of the University of Pennsylvania and chair of the Presidential Commission for the Study of Bioethical Issues, and really delighted on behalf of myself and our commission vice chair, James Wagner, who's president of Emory University, to welcome you back here to the Smilo Center for the second day of our 14th meeting of our commission. Before we continue to make this meeting official, I would like to note the presence of our designated federal official, Bioethics Commission Executive Director, Lisa M. Lee. Lisa, would you stand so everyone can identify you? Thank you. And also for those of you who were not here yesterday, a reminder that one of our members, Dr. John Aris, is joining us by phone, and we're very pleased to have him because it was impossible for him to get here physically, but he is here in every other way, so he will be participating by phone. Before we move beyond our deliberations on incidental findings, I want to add a potential finding, and a potential overarching recommendations to our deliberations that actually arose because of the deliberations yesterday, and were provoked and suggested, in my mind, by them, and follow up. Anita Allen began this line of discussion, and the audience members chimed in, and there was follow-up afterwards. And I want to, as a matter of the public record, put it out there and have any quick reactions by commission members, because I think this will be a potential finding and recommendation in our report. And I'll read what I jotted down this morning because our time is limited, but I do want to spend some time on it. Where we left yesterday, there was concern which the Commission has consistently shared based on our principle of justice and fairness about the inequities in access to counseling and testing that may or may not yield direct, incidental, secondary, or general findings relevant to one's health. It would be hard, and so this is our potential finding and recommendation. It would be hard to exaggerate the importance of equitable access to counseling. Dr. Hauser made this point before as well as after testing that may or may not yield incidental or secondary or general findings relevant to your health. So consider the most well-known recent testing that yielded life-saving results. That of Angelina Jolie's BRCA1 and BRCA2 testing for a rare form of breast cancer that has a high probability, if not prophylactically treated, of being fatal. The test is costly. The greatest inequalities, however, are not connected to the testing per se, but to the quality counseling as to whether and what test is of high quality and worth obtaining, who is what woman is likely to be at high enough risk to make it worthwhile being tested, and then what to do with the information gathered. Information is not knowledge. That is yet another reason why I am recommending and would like a brief discussion here with the Commission why we should have another overarching recommendation that says there's no real substitute in micro regulations. There's no real substitute for access to high quality, cost effective health care, in particular, access to counseling and quality follow up care. And I open it up to any members of the commission for follow-up comments. And then I assure our panelists we will move on. But I think it is important to put this on the public record. Dan.
Yeah, I'd just say it's almost really a corollary if we're going to suggest that people have action. If it's going to be actionable, then it presumes that people will be able to act upon the information, and so I think it's very reasonable.
Anita.
We don't know, of course, what will be the best path for people of different economic classes and races and situations to get the testing and healthcare they need. And one of the reasons I raise these concerns about equity is that we are hearing that some people may be turning to these alternative direct-to-consumer modalities, and we must be, therefore, especially concerned about the quality of those modalities, because if they're not good, then the people who turn to them will be harmed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Barbara.
I just wanted to say that I agree, and I think the counseling is important, but the post-treatment is extremely important, and that's been a real problem. Getting breast cancer treated in somebody that doesn't have insurance is practically impossible in some places.
Well, that's why I think it's really important to include both before and after. Good. Okay. We will move on. And before we do, I'd like to just go around and ask each member of the commission to introduce herself or himself, and we might as well begin with Anita, since you just spoke.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Anita Allen, Vice Provost for Faculty here at the University of Pennsylvania, and also Professor of Law and Philosophy.
Steve Hauser, Chair of Neurology at UC San Francisco.
Nita Farahani, Professor of Law and Philosophy and Professor of Genome Sciences and Policy at Duke University.
Christine Grady, Chief of the Department of Bioethics at the National Institutes of Health Clinical Center.
Barbara Atkinson, Emeritus Executive Vice Chancellor and previous Dean at the University of Kansas Medical Center.
Dan Solmacy, the McLean Center for Clinical Medical Ethics, the Department of Medicine and Divinity School at the University of Chicago.
I'm Raju Kuchalapari, Professor of Genetics and Medicine at Harvard Medical School.
Thank you, and thanks to all the commission members. Today we begin work on a charge that I received in a letter from President Obama last month as part of the new Brain Research Through Advancing Innovative Neurotechnologies initiative, a full title that few people will remember because we call it the BRAIN Initiative for short. President Obama asked the Bioethics Commission to play a critical role in ensuring that neuroscientific investigational methods, technologies, and protocols are consistent with sound ethical principles and practices. Specifically, the President asked us to identify proactively a set of core ethical standards, both to guide neuroscience research and to address some of the ethical dilemmas that may be raised by the application of neuroscience research findings. We are well positioned to address the implications that will arise as we as a nation embrace advances in neuroscience. We as a commission will engage with the scientific community and many other stakeholders to bring to bear a variety of perspectives on this emerging field. And this engagement begins this morning. We have a great group here today to present to us. For those of you in the audience who were not here yesterday, I'd like to take a moment simply to explain how we will take public comments. We got terrific ones yesterday. raising the standard for today high, which I'm sure you will meet. At the registration table out front, there are comment cards. All of our staff members also have comment cards. We ask that you write down any comments you have on these cards, on one of these cards, hand it to any commission staff member, and they will bring them up to Jim or me, depending on who's moderating the session. Would all of our staff members please stand up so you can be identified? There you go. Thank you very much. Jim, do you want to say a few words?
Very few, as a matter of fact. This is exciting. You know, neuroscience and brain studies in particular bring us closer to this intersection of who we are and how we function. I want to make sure we understand the responsibility here. I know we all do, but I think it bears saying out loud that we should applaud the fact that it is understood that at the foundation of a new initiative like this, ethics is expected to play a role to guide that research. You know, after all, this commission has sat and looked at historical studies and wondered what in the world were they thinking. And we have a chance through what we do today to help ensure that years from now no one will look back and say, what in the world were we thinking? So I just want to remind us of the context of this. So I'm excited and looking forward to this new activity, particularly with guys like you.
Well said. Thank you, Jim.